you can't really work in high finance if you only have a fucking finance degree. But, they have some mediocre entry-level knowledge of finance, and they just don't know. They wouldn't know. And they're easy pickings for, like I said, people like Goldman, people like JPMC, who would have picked them off, probably sold them to garbage too. So, even stupider, when they couldn't handle the plainest of plain vanilla U.S. Treasuries, they got themselves hosed on mortgage-backed securities and probably other ABS products. I haven't taken a look at their books. I haven't taken a look at their numbers or whatever. But you kind of know when you have these sorts of, ignoramus might be a harsh word, but, just the people who wouldn't know because that's not the things they deal in. But, they got a little bit of capital, so of course, the Goldmans of the world will be going after that money. They're not their friends. But that is just but one way of looking at it. And in their idiocy, like I said, or in the hopium, nobody in their right mind would buy SVB because it's just a simple commercial bank. And it fucked that up. It doesn't have any deposits. It had a run on the bank. All the capital structure that was used for their, regulatory requirements, they got hosed on in a fire sale. Probably JPMC and Goldman fucking made a shitload of money. And probably, with any of their MBS products too, which even if it were still on their books, nobody would fucking buy. For the multitude of reasons, and I just gave you one. So nobody's buying SVB. That's why the FDIC, or as I call it, the Bail-in Administration Corporation, they just put it in liquidation, and they'll get what they can get. But here's the kicker for that too. The greatest part of this little story that I enjoy the most is that me and my buddy Zero Hedge here, we always like to laugh at the garbage bullshit valuations. Oh, and I guess I got a chance to watch Silicon Valley too, and I got to watch Mike Judge ridicule this type of shit that goes on there. Where they get like their round of funding and then somehow it's valued at like $1 billion, and even though it does nothing and it has no fucking revenue, let alone profits. Oh my God, we just valued it. We'll give you this much money, and we'll value at 50,000 or 50 billion for this amount of shares, and it's all fucking crock of shit. And it was only possible. We got some fans over here. Should do one of those CNBC sorts of studios where people just they congregate around in the background. But it is only possible in a negative or real interest rates, negative interest rate environment. Because how in the fucking hell would you be able to raise money if your garbage company only burns money? And then supposedly you just get a next higher valuation, and then it says, oh look, we value it at $50 billion. It hasn't made a fucking penny in 20 years. Kind of like Twat Fest. But for some reason it's worth this much money, and we can only keep doing it with the Ponzi scheme fueled by negative interest rates. And now those days are over. And the most retarded one being WeWork, or Wetards as I was ridiculing it. Those garbage essentially took Regis's business model, made it even stupider and less profitable, and for some reason this shit fuck made out with how many billions of dollars as this company failed. And what's her name too? We were talking about the Hollywood stuff too. It's related to vag candles too over there. What's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow? Who sells fucking vag candles? And somehow I don't know how they're married, but part of that fucking bullshit, what's a scam? And for some reason, did this even happen? That garbage who are unprofitable with retarded business models, with worthless companies that do nothing, managed to get retarded valuations, and the founders ended up with billions of dollars for being retards. And that only happens in a negative interest rate environment. And once rates come back to reality, well, guess what? You clean up that garbage. What was enough? There are how many examples of this, too? Where none of these companies are profitable. None of these zombie companies would exist had it not been for an artificially created, central bank created, negative interest rate environment. Where again, these shit fucks only got paid because they had access to this capital. Which again, they were stupid enough not to donate to the federal church. Which, pretty soon will be more federal than the Federal Reserve. I don't think I'm exaggerating with that. Because we get to talk about de-dollarization in another video. But back to the topic at hand. So essentially you have this bullshit, fraudulent ecosystem that's what they like to call their shit bullshit startup garbage ecosystem. Especially in the gay area over there. But it's only in that sort of retarded environment that you have something happen like FTX. Wherein, what did these shit fucks do? They were just a fucking exchange. It's not even a physical exchange like the fucking New York Stock Exchange was and still sort of is. It has a little floor, has people with their little fucking tablet, and phone, whatever. No, it's a completely electronic exchange for fucking cryptos, one of many. And for some reason, they managed to bullshit, things like Sequoia Capital, whatever shitfuck garbage they have over there in the gay area. They managed to bullshit these people into thinking it was worth hundreds of billions of dollars. How the fuck did you come to this valuation? What do these shitfucks do? And then, of course, the fraud is just complete fucking fraud, and then you end up saying that, they end up being more fraudulent garbage with their commingling. And it goes down to as the garbage scam that it is. But that's probably the best part of watching Silicon Valley Bank implode. It's because of this garbage, artificially created negative interest rate environment that shouldn't have been done. I mean, they just made things worse for everybody else too. These central banks, that was the only way any of these garbage companies were even able to get any funding. And now, once that's over, well, guess what? There really won't be much of a need for an SVB, is there? Just in my opinion, that's one of the best things that happened with this kind of crap. But, I'm sure there's much more to this story. I'm just going off of what I saw from my buddy Zero Hedge here, by the way. I'm sure he's watching live what time is it over there. It's like 9 o'clock over there in New York. But let's see what we just... I didn't put anything here up. But let's go over to some of his articles here. This one was a pretty good one. 300 billion reasons why SVB contagion is spreading to the broader banking system. And just like I said, yeah, this is just but one domino to fall. But it's got a shitload of other dominoes around it to take with it. So SVB has been shuttered by California regulators, which is funny because I always use that Orange County example. As shit clowns from fucking, finance. With like the finance degrees, which, is not sufficient to be working in finance. As people who get hosed by that sort of thing. I find that funny there. Who have appointed a receiver. Wonder what they received because all this shit's gone. All insured depositors will have full access to their insured deposits. Again, that's laughable too, how the cheerleaders tried to spin that. Like on the news, like the financial pundits. Oh, it's FDIC insured. Yeah, but if you're like Roku, who had $500 million in there, and you only have 250,000 insured, you lost all your shit, and you just learned the definition of a bail-in, which is what I was saying not too long ago, by the way. And if they're lucky, they're just going to take a massive haircut. So they get to learn about that too. And again, you know, this is why I bring this up too, because anybody who's been paying attention to banking in, for example, the European markets, these are all things that should have been obvious to you, because this has happened many fucking times since 2008. And that also brings up another point, where there are retards who are crying, oh, we're going to have another recession like 2008, blah, blah, blah. No, you're still in it. You never recovered from 2008. They tried to paper over it with their shitload of money printing and trying to keep interest rates down artificially. And guess what? This is what happens. That shit implodes, and then now you're going to have even worse. But no, you didn't recover from 2008. You've been in a depression since then. You've only had artificial printed money covering it up, and now it's not being covered up. That's over with. So the FDIC, or as I would like to call it, the Bail-in Administrating Corporation, will pay uninsured depositors an advanced dividend with... So again, if you're Roku with $500 million, now you get a fraction of your fucking $250,000 insurance. Yeah, I'm sure that'll... I'm sure that'll fucking matter. Uninsured depositors will receive a receivership certificate for the remaining amount of their uninsured funds. The FDIC sells the assets of Silicon Valley Bank. Future dividend payments may be made to uninsured depositors. This will hardly boost depositor confidence in other small banks and, by extension, big ones. For those who slept through yesterday, here's what you missed and why the U.S. banking system is suffering its worst crisis since 2020. Silicon Valley Bank, aka, I think it is, oh, I guess it is SVB. Just kind of funny they have that fucking name too. 18th largest bank in the U.S., with $212 billion in assets, of which $120 billion are securities, which they got fucking hosed on. Of which most, or what is that? So basically a quarter of their garbage was garbage, which lost shitloads of money in a fire sale, or will be, because nobody will fucking buy that shit, just like I said. That shit too. That shit too. Yeah, like I said, I don't look at the books. So yeah, they're gonna learn the definition of a bail-in and haircut. Oh, which even funnier too. Now, what I was saying before about these shit zombie companies that don't do anything. They're gonna have cash flow problems, and for a zombie company, cash flow problems likely mean death. So they're done. Perhaps they can go over to Norcal Bob's and ask them to solve their economic problems. What they get for showing up in my shop. So, funded by over $173 billion in the deposits, of which $151.5 billion are uninsured. So yeah, bail-in and haircut. It's long been viewed as the bank at the heart of the U.S. startup industry due to its singular focus on venture capital firms. No, not anymore. In many ways, it echoes the issues we saw at Silvergate, which banked crypto firms almost exclusively. Oh, that gets funny too. They call it crypto, but I think most people refer to them as shitcoins. this is another, people spin this like it's a bad thing. Why shouldn't these zombie companies finally die instead of being propped up by, essentially printed money that just causes inflation for everybody else? No, they should be allowed to have, the free market take its course and wipe them out. And then they have this crypto crap too, or shit coins. Why would this be a bad thing? Get rid of these shit coins. They're not crypto, those are shit coins. So, Silicon Valley Bank stunned markets on Thursday after it announced a series of actions to improve its balance sheet flexibility and capital ratio. This is what I was just saying too, where they just bullshit and bullshit and bullshit some more because they're fucked. Simply put, they fucked up the most plain vanilla of fucking vanilla trades, the U.S. toiletries. They went the wrong way on the U.S. toiletries, and they were so fucking retarded, they were dumb enough not to hedge it. When that's all you're supposed to do as a fucking commercial bank. And, like I said, this isn't an investment bank. This isn't, doing anything sophisticated. It's a fucking depository bank. These people literally should fucking run this shit on autopilot and go fucking play golf at 3 fucking p.m. in the afternoon. And this is not a difficult thing to do. Yet they managed to fuck it up. You basically have to be a special kind of stupid to do this. Which I'm sure there's many more stupids who have done it. Hang on here. Which, by the way, shows you why you shouldn't fucking hire people based on equality. Because they're equal, they managed to fuck this one up. Oh, there we go. So, Civ stunned markets. Let's see here. Oh, capital ratios. Yeah, they screwed that up. As rates potentially remain higher for longer, potentially, they definitely fucking will. It should have been the most obvious part about this, because you and everybody else printed trillions of dollars and shut down the world for fucking 3 years. Rates going higher is one of the only things that's assured. And private markets remain under pressure. Yeah, which means there's no capital or no credit going around. Then they borrow shit to fucking, preserve this shit show. Now, while many had suspected that the bank may be facing a liquidity crisis in a rapidly raising rate environment, most notably the Wall Street Journal in late 2022, took the management team's confirmation that liquidity has collapsed to spark a bank crisis and a depositor run. The bank said it sold $21 billion of its available for-sale securities to be reinvested in short-duration treasuries, and publicly announced raising $2.25 billion of equity, $175 billion common and $500 million preferred, primarily to support its capital ratios given the